Hello everyone. Alright, thank you for waiting. So next up we have Matt Deshon, and he's a R&D evangelist from Technology One, talking about why get up in the morning. Please make him feel welcome.
Thanks everyone. Very happy to be here. I was here for about half of the day yesterday, so I got to see some of the presentations yesterday and see our graduate team do their presentation of their first 12 weeks at Tech One. So I'm not going to go over that ground again. That's our graduate program, and they tell it far better than I could because they've actually gone through it. I've been with Technology One for 20 years now, so I've seen an awful lot of stuff come and go. We started with green screen products and back-end Unix servers when I started out, and I think yesterday Jesse was talking about doing his coding test in PHP. I did mine in C. So that's how far back we're going. We now develop cloud-based software, so it's software as a service platform. Most of our back-end server stuff is C#. I'm sorry, it's C#. That's just the way we roll because we've been working with Microsoft for a very long time. We're a very close partner of Microsoft's. I was going to start off with a bit of a spiel, but before that, I'd just like to preface, because I sat through William's presentation there, and it really brought something home for me. I mean, I've been at Tech One for 20 years now, and I have seen the software development lifecycle from pretty much every angle in that time. I've worked in R&D, I've worked in sales, I've worked in consulting, I've worked in 7 different countries around the world for Technology One. So I've kind of sort of been there and seen a lot of it. The importance of good code, error-free code, and safe code really cannot be overstated. IBM, and you know, IBM's a bit of a dirty word right now, and especially in Australia, we're following the rather up and down fate of IBM. They did a study, and this was quite a while back, this is maybe 15 years ago. They did a study where they worked out the cost of fixing a bug before and after the release of the software. Now, if they found a bug in internal testing before the software had been released and fixed it, that cost was roughly $1,000. $1,000 US at about the turn of the century. If that software was actually released and then they found a bug and had to fix it, the cost was about $1 million per bug. Okay, so 1,000 times more expensive if your software is out there in the wild and you then have to patch it, because then you've got to manage all of your customers, you have to get patches to them, right? You've got to have support staff who are helping out with the soft skills of customer management and so forth. So getting it right and keeping it safe are never more important today than they have been in the past. It's just absolutely critical. So while I've never programmed in Rust, I really do applaud the structure and what they're trying to achieve with protecting us from ourselves. All right, so the title of today's presentation is Why Get Up in the Morning? Now, the way that I'm structuring this presentation is largely around a Japanese concept called Ikigai. Has anyone heard of it? No? Anyone see it in the notes and maybe go and Google it and find out what it's all about? Okay, so Ikigai is a Japanese term, and basically what it means is a reason to get up in the morning. Now, it originates really from the Okinawan prefecture in Japan. And Okinawa is one of the world's blue zones. A blue zone is where the people who live in that area live significantly longer than the rest of us do. Okinawans regularly live to 100 plus. And it's not just a small group or a privileged group, it's not outliers in the statistics. It's a general thing for the population. There's been a lot of work done with these blue zones to try and work out why it's so. A few theories have come up. One is they walk a lot, they don't drive so much. Another one is they have largely plant-based diet. But the prevailing idea for why the Okinawans live so long is this concept of Ikigai. So it breaks down into 4 parts. Do what you love, be good at it, make money from it, and do what the world needs. If you can sort out those four things, according to the Okinawans, you will have a long and satisfying and fruitful life. So I want to use Ikigai as a bit of a construct to work around with this talk and go through these different things in the context of a career in the computing industry. So let's first talk about what we love. Now, you've all given up your long weekend to be here at a computer science conference. So there's a fair bet you've already worked out that you love working with computers. Yeah? Anybody here who doesn't love working with computers? I mean, sometimes, yeah, we hate it. Sometimes we hate it, of course, but we love it as well. Now, I've known a lot of people in my time, and I know a lot of people who are miserable in their jobs, in their lives. And the main reason for that is they're doing a job they don't like. They're doing something with their life that they don't love. And the key one is people do things to make money. People go into the financial industry, for example. I'm going to be a Wall Street banker, I'm going to make my millions by the age of 25 and then I'm going to retire. Well, you know, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But they would probably be much happier doing something different with their life. They made a choice for the money. Yeah? So I would suggest if you're in computing for the money, then it's probably the wrong reason. There are other ways you can make more money than in computing and not have to think quite so hard. Okay, so we're here because we love it. And, you know, I love it. I came from a background, and thinking back a very long time ago, where your school guidance counsellors weren't really very much used to you. So when I was at high school, the guidance counsellors went something like this. If you're good at science, then you go and do medicine. If you're not so good at science, then you go and do engineering. If you're good at the humanities, then you go and do law. And if you don't fall into one of those three categories, they didn't want to know about you. You were then on your own. If you wanted to do anything else, it was like, oh, I don't have enough time for you, off you go. So I was good at languages. That was my thing. So I did law. But I also loved technology. Tech was my thing. That was my sort of passion on the side, because we didn't have a lot of tech back at school then. We had a few computers. The companies are all dead now because Apple and Microsoft took them all out. But that was about it, you know. And I loved the tech. Absolutely loved it. So when I came here, and I came to UQ, I did science and law. I was able to do a double degree and a double major in computer science. And that saved my life. Because I got here, and everyone said, oh, you'll be great at law, you know, you did English and debating and all that stuff. I hated it. I hated it. But I loved the computer science, right? And I didn't like maths at school. I was never a real maths geek at school. But when I got here, then I discovered maths that was actually relevant and that I loved. To the extent that my favourite subject here at university was the theory of relational database design. Didn't touch a computer for the whole semester. It was all pure maths. It was relational algebra and predicate calculus, and I couldn't get enough. That was just, I was sold. So, you know, finding out what you love, and my career has been now largely based around relational databases. All of our systems at Technology One are back-ended by relational databases. So I've been able to have an amazing career by exploiting that particular thing that I found I was particularly passionate about. Okay? So find what you love, do what you love, that's important. But it's not enough. So have you ever seen So You Think You Can Dance or Australian Idol and, you know, those talent shows, right? You get some amazing talent on them. But my favourite bit of those shows, my absolute favourite bit, is the auditions at the beginning. Right? You get the mass cattle call auditions and everyone comes in and they all say, don't they, it's my passion to dance. It's all I ever want to do. Or my passion is singing. I can only ever see myself doing it. And then they get up there and they're no good. Yeah? It's not enough to say you love it and to be passionate about it. You also have to be good at it. So, this is the second part of the concept of Ikigai, is learning how to be good at things. Now, there are a lot of different ways that we can become good and find out what it is we really want to be good at in computer science, isn't there? Because the IT industry is so incredibly broad now, and there are new categories of jobs, professions, and disciplines being created every day. You know, the current crop of high-value positions is all around big data, analytics, the Internet of Things, embedded programming. Yeah? 10 years ago, it was all around business intelligence. That was the big promise, is business intelligence is going to let us make sense of all of this enterprise data we have in the world. Didn't really work out. So I'm sort of holding out hope that the big data analytics thing is going to kind of succeed where business intelligence failed. So how do you go about building this knowledge and building this expertise so that you can be good at something? There are a few different ways that we generally go about it. You can be a hacker. Black hat hacker, hack the dark web. Anyone watch Mr. Robot? Yeah, pretty awesome series. Absolutely love it. It's very sexy, isn't it? To think I'm a bit in the underworld. I'm doing some cool stuff. I'm working with people. I don't know their real names. It's only handles all around the world. I don't even know where they live. There's something really sort of subversive and sexy around that. But you can really attract the wrong sort of attention. Yeah, so as a career option and as a way of sort of working through things, I wouldn't necessarily recommend being a black hat. Okay, you might just get yourself in a bit of strife. So the next way, and this is kind of, the way that a lot of people expect us to go in computer science, is the entrepreneurial route. Does everyone know these guys? Scott Farquhar, Mike Cannon-Brookes, founders of Atlassian. They started Atlassian on a $10,000 credit card limit, basically in their garage, right? Last year, they floated on the NASDAQ in the United States, and they're now worth somewhere north of $4 billion. That's not bad, is it? That's a pretty good payday. And these guys have managed to stay pretty honest Australians through the whole thing. They haven't gone out and bought super yachts. They still live in the same houses. So they've managed to retain their identity as well. Amazing Australian success story. And there are other entrepreneurs as well. The guy who founded Technology One, Adrian DeMarco. He's an entrepreneur too, and he has done the very same sort of thing. Much lower profile, stayed very, very much based in Australia. But he built a company up from nothing, and now that company's worth just shy of $2 billion. It's not bad. To be an entrepreneur, though, you need to be a very, very specific sort of person. You need to have immense self-belief and immense drive, because no one is going to push you to do it. You have to push yourself. You also have to be very resilient, because every lesson you learn, every way you get better at stuff is going to be by learning it the hard way, by making a mistake, by losing money, by missing out on a deal, by having somebody sue you because your program doesn't do what they expected it to do. So it's a very tough road. And the figures vary a little bit depending on how you slice and dice them, but it's pretty solid to say 95% of startups fail. So job security is not high on the list if you're planning on doing startups. Now, that said, now, if you're ever going to do it, now is the time. Because I'm not going to speak for you, but I would hazard a guess that for most of you, you don't have children, and you probably don't have mortgages yet. And nothing focuses your attention on job security like children and mortgages. So if you're going to have a crack, if you're going to go out on your own, be an entrepreneur, do it now. Now the third way, and this is the way that most of us take, certainly the way I took, is to go to university. Go to uni, do your study, explore your electives, find that thing that really sort of floats your boat, and follow that. Unis are great, right? There's a lot of breadth, there's a lot of like-minded people, there's a lot of mentor opportunities available. Yeah, there's a heap of different things that you can do through the curriculum. And that's useful. But it's not the be-all and end-all of university life. Now, A lot of you have probably worked that out because you're sitting in this room instead of having a long weekend somewhere, off at the beach or something. There's more to it than just being here. One of the ones I want to focus on today, there are a lot of different options, right? There are career days, there are mentoring programs, all sorts of different things. The one I want to focus on today is hackathons. So has everyone here participated in a hackathon at some point? About half. Okay. If you haven't, I would recommend it as one of the best ways that you can supplement your standard university degree. It does a few things. Forces you to work in a team. And I know you do team assignments and things like that, and my experience and the experience of people I've spoken with is that tends to have varying degrees of success, doesn't it? Sometimes you've got a team where you've got everyone who's just awesome and you all work really well together. But most of the time you find you might have a team of 4 people and one person does all the work and everyone else kind of just sponges off. Or you've got that one person who just can't get it together. A hackathon forces you to work together in a team in a very, very short space of time. You've got maybe 2 days. Yeah, and you have to build and deliver an idea. You have to have different roles in the team. You have to have developers. You have to have analysts. So you heard Maggie yesterday talking about what it is to be a business analyst. It's very, very hard to develop a good program without analysis work. Whether you do it yourself or whether somebody else does it for you and works with you, you need to have that analysis. Otherwise, how do you know that what you're building is any good? You need to have someone thinking about the user experience. How is it all going to work? Do you do 3 clicks to get to everything? Do you say there's a maximum of 4? What's your screen layout? What's your color format? How is it going to look? How is it going to adapt between a tablet and a phone and a desktop machine? All of those ideas. But my favorite part of a hackathon is the pitch. So you've probably all watched Shark Tank. Yeah, you've seen that sort of high-pressure pitch thing where you get to come out and there's a bunch of high-net-worth individuals in front of you. I love that term, high-net-worth. It just sounds impressive in some way. And they're all there and they're saying, come on, impress me, and if you do enough, I'll give you some money, but I'll also take half your company. So that sort of pitch, you've got 2 minutes, maybe 3 minutes. It's quite a short space of time. You have to get your idea across. You have to articulate the problem you want to solve. You have to articulate the solution that you've created and then go through how. So you have to be very focused. You have to be very good at getting your point across. Okay? And that's an excellent training. And I don't know, maybe there is something in the courses you're doing now, but certainly when I was at uni, there was nothing about that sort of training in my course. Okay, so doing a hackathon lets you start getting that training. Yeah, so I would really recommend to all of you that you take opportunities outside of your standard curriculum to get better at the things that you really want to focus on. All right, so now we come to the dollars, right? Show me the money. How am I actually going to make a living out of what I do? I found out what I love. And I've gotten pretty good at it at uni and maybe done some other bits and pieces, right? But the rubber hits the road when you need to make a living. And we all need to make a living somehow. So let's start with some numbers. So this is from last year. 67% of graduates had found full-time employment 4 months after graduating. Now that means 23% had not. And I did check, that 67% also includes people who identified themselves as entrepreneurs in a startup. Okay? So 1/3 of all graduates had not found full-time work yet after 4 months, but they were all actively looking. Yeah, this doesn't include people who didn't participate in the survey, who decided they didn't want to be part of it. So 1/3 didn't have a job. 2/3 did. And that's great. Of the whole lot, though, this is the number that I found really interesting. Over 21% of the whole lot, that's not 21% of the 67%, that's 21% overall of IT graduates already had a full-time job by the time they finished their university degree. Okay, now there'll be a number of reasons for that. There'll be people who already had the job and then they went out to get the degree so that they would advance themselves in their job. But then there are also a lot of people who would have started out at uni and then acquired the job as they went along. So, how do you get to be one of the 21.3% who's already got a job locked in before they've even finished their degree? And actually, could I have a show of hands? Who has got a full-time job locked in? Oh, that's great. So there's our representative. That's actually a bit more than 21%. Be more like 25? Good. So how do you do it? Now this is the Tech one, right? Great. But there are heaps and heaps of organisations that have got intern programs. I'm not talking about grad programs because they start after you finish your degree. But internships are a great way for you to get a foot in the door with organisations. Now, Tech One has an intern program, the Queensland Government has an intern program, the Westpac Bank has an intern program. They are all over the place. Yeah? It's not individual industries and it's not individual places around Australia. Intern programs are everywhere. And I would encourage you to look at them. Now, the key reason, aside from the fact that you get a foot in the door with someone, is you get to evaluate the corporate culture. Now, culture is critical in deciding where you want to work. Yeah? You can't work out the corporate culture in a 15-minute building tour when you have a job interview. You need to actually be immersed in it for a while to work that out. So, you saw yesterday a great example of the Technology One corporate culture. We had 4 of our grads here, and they talked about what it was to be a grad. Now, that's the graduate program, awesome, but also what they were doing was representing the Technology One corporate culture. Yeah, we have a very defined culture, and there are some people who come into Technology One who are awesome. They're brilliant, they're very hardworking, and they hate the culture. So they hit it, and they bounce, and they leave. And that's nobody's fault. It's not their fault, it's not our fault, it just wasn't a good match. And they will go and find a job somewhere else and be immensely happy because they find a culture that fits for them. I was part of a conference circuit this year called the Big Day In, which is run by the Australian Computer Society, and it's for high school students. The idea is, and we actually had it in this room a little while back in June, full of high school students, all deciding if they wanted to pursue a career in IT. So there were a bunch of different presenters. There was me, there was someone from Red Hat, people from various banks, people from other software companies, people from the government, all presenting and basically pitching their organisation and why what they do is awesome and people should come into the industry. Yeah? Now, the thing that I found interesting about this was for every single software company or every organisation that had a substantial software arm, and banks are good for this, right? Banks employ a heap of software engineers. They all threw up the obligatory slide of the workplace with the pool table or the ping pong table or the foosball table, right? It's just such an accepted part of IT office culture now that you're going to have those sort of things. You're going to have beanbags and bright colours and, you know, food and so forth. Okay? So don't let that seduce you. Yeah? You come into the Tech One office and people come in to Tech One and they go, wow, this is such a great office space. And it is. Yeah? We have beer taps. Something that we took from Atlassian, shamelessly ripped off from the Atlassian offices down in Sydney, was the beer taps. And they're great. We have drinks on a Friday afternoon. But if you don't like working there for the other 40 hours of the week, having a free beer at 4 o'clock on a Friday doesn't really cut it. Yeah? So corporate culture or government culture is really super important. And internships allow you to evaluate that properly. You actually get to work inside the organisation. You get to see the people at their best and their worst. Yeah? And you get to see the different pressures, the ebb and flow of work over a period of time. Yeah? So do internships. Do them in different places. Yeah? Work out where you want to fit. It may well be you're just not a big corporation kind of person. You fit better in a startup. Maybe you fit better in a bank. You love that structure and the sort of lifestyle that offers. It's up to you. There is no wrong answer. Yeah, where you fit is where you fit. All right. So we spoke about hackathons before as being a great way to expand your knowledge and build on your IT degree. Hackathons are also another great way to come to the attention of potential employers, because employers, organisations, sponsor hackathons, and they send spies into the hackathons in the guise of the person handing over the prizes to suss out the people and to work out who's going to be potentially the next graduate or intern intake for that organisation. And we're no different at Technology One. We sponsored the UQ Hackathon here a little while back. We sponsored the QUT Code Network Hackathon about a month before that. Now, I'm not sure if, and I'm going to talk about the QUT one, and there's a good reason for that. The QUT Code Network Hackathon was won by these two guys, Austin and Bount, first-year students, who wrote a little program called Make Census Great Again. So it was just after the whole census website debacle and IBM was on the nose and everyone was pointing fingers at each other. These guys, in a weekend, created a subset of the census site, very small, only 4 questions, and the whole idea of it was to be massively scalable. So the census site cost $9.6 million. That was the IBM contract. Of that, 460,000, give or take, was for load testing. And they load tested to about 255, I think, submissions per second as part of that process. So these guys wrote a website using AWS. So they used Lambda, and they used a couple of other back-end database services. So no servers, right? A completely serverless structure. They wrote it. They load tested it using open source tools to 10,000 submissions a second, up from 255. The whole thing cost them about $500 for the weekend, and the cost of load testing was 0. Was it 10, was it? That was what they were given to work with, yeah. Yeah, they had a $500 credit limit, didn't they? I think for the whole thing. But yeah, they didn't run up a server. They just stuck everything in Lambda and allowed that to scale their code for them. Okay, and this made international headlines. It was reported in the UK, all around Australia as well. It was tweeted by Werner Vogels, who's the CTO of Amazon Web Services. It was tweeted by Mark Andreessen, who's the head of Andreessen Horowitz, which is the largest venture capitalist in Silicon Valley. That's the sort of attention that this received. And we kind of were able to sneak in on that a little bit because we sponsored the prizes for them. So we brought them into Tech One to present the prizes, and this is our CEO, Adrian, presenting the prizes at our most recent Hack Day. So being in a hackathon doesn't just teach you skills, but it can also bring you to the attention of potential employers. Yeah, very useful way to get some networking opportunities and to start to build those relationships. All right, so we've all heard about the changing job market and how 40% of current jobs are going to be lost to automation and robotics, and 50% of people finishing school today are going to be going into jobs that don't even exist yet, and things like that, right? Now, that's always been the case. There's a lot of doom and gloom being thrown around now, right? But I'm a tech evangelist. My job didn't exist 15 years ago. I could not have come out of university going, I'm going to be a tech evangelist. That is my thing. That's what I'm going to, that's my career goal. Couldn't have done it. So I don't see this change in the workplace and change in the nature of jobs as something to be scared of. I think it's something to be excited about, because we are all the sort of people who thrive on change. You know, if you didn't love change, if you didn't love things changing all the time, IT is a really bad career choice. It's a bad job. Go and do law instead, where things change about once every 200 years. So this one, robot counsellor, I just went out and tried to find the most out there sort of job prediction I could. So robot counsellors are people who are going to help flesh and blood people learn how to relate to robots. So it's a social worker. Yeah, you get robots in the workplace, we'll have robots in our homes. How are we going to handle that new personality, because we anthropomorphise everything? How are we going to handle that new personality in our home or in our job where we have to actually interface with it? So this is a social worker to help us understand that and work out how to interface with robots and have dialogues with them and so forth. Okay? It sounds just absurd, doesn't it? It sounds weird. But I can guarantee that in the next 5 or 10 years, we're going to find jobs that are much weirder than that. Okay, so be excited about it, embrace it, it's going to be fun. All right, so we've talked about doing what you love, we've talked about being good at it, we've talked about ways you can make money and how you can come to the attention of employers. Now we come to the fourth one, which is probably the most difficult to sort out. This is how to do what the world needs, how to give something back to the world. And this is the one that is a bit more uniquely Japanese in perspective, right? Because the first three, they get thrown around quite a lot in sort of self-help seminars and things like that. You know, do what you love, sure, get good at it, no worries, make some money, you'll be happy. This, I think, is the missing piece, right? If you feel that what you're doing is actually giving you personal and emotional fulfillment, as well as giving you that job security and that feeling of achievement, then that just rounds the whole picture out. Now, this can be hard, right? People can go through their whole lives not really understanding or working out what it is that they're doing for the planet or what it is they're giving back to humanity. It can be tiny. In the example of Ikigai in Okinawa, one of the ones that's used, and there's a great TED talk. So if you're interested in Ikigai, I would encourage you to go to the TED website and see the TED talk on it, on blue zones. It's blue zones in general. The example they give is a fisherman. And the fisherman in his particular village found his giving back to the world by being good enough at fishing to provide enough for his village. Yeah? It's a very small, very non-technical example. Yeah? It doesn't matter how big or small it is. Maybe your destiny is to be part of the mission to Mars. Maybe it's something big like that. Maybe it's something really small. Doesn't matter what it is. So, our real opportunity as a group, because this is what we are, right? We're creators. Our real opportunity is around innovation. Yeah? In the computer science space, there is nothing that drives us more than innovation, than the next thing, building something. So identifying what the world needs and then building it. Yeah? And you've got big examples and little examples. This one's an enormous example, right? Internet.org, bringing the internet to everyone on the planet. So when we're building things, and we're creators, right? We create programs, we create things that didn't exist before. It's a very personal activity. We can decide whether we want to do something which is going to benefit our fellow people or the planet in general. You know, does the world need another text editor? Probably not. But does the world need innovative ways to make sense of the data that's coming down the fire hose from the Internet of Things? Absolutely. And can that benefit people, especially people in third world countries? Sure. Yeah, so you've got decisions that you can make about how you want to use your powers for good or for evil. Okay? Now, Internet.org is a very high profile example of something called social innovation. Now, social innovation is not a new term. It's been around for over 100 years. but it is currently very topical. Yeah, it is something which is garnering a lot of attention and a lot of money, a lot of funding. It is also one of the very few industries worldwide where females are represented at an equal level as males at the very top of those organisations. So C-level executives and board members, 50%, in fact I think it's slightly over 50% worldwide for women to be at the top of those organisations. Okay? Contrast it with abysmal numbers for most other industries around the world. So social innovation is an area that if you do feel you want to give in a more obvious way or in a more directed way, so you want to make it your career or your life's work to give to the planet or give to people, social innovation is an area and a choice that you might want to make. Okay? There's a lot of it. You don't have to travel to third world countries to be part of it. You know, we had a great talk yesterday about working from home in an international organisation. We can be part of these sort of international movements and these international innovations without leaving Brisbane or without leaving Australia. Yeah? But if you want to, then you can. Yeah? And one of the great things about a career in computer science is you can move from country to country. There are no professional bodies that require you to be a registered member in their country, unlike medicine or law where you have to undertake new exams if you want to move to a different country, or even in some cases to a different state. You can pick up your qualifications and your experience and go to a different country and work. And that's an amazing freedom to have. And the social innovation space is one of the best ways to do that and see other parts of the world. Back here in Australia, though, we've got a whole lot of other ways that you can gain funding and you can work in the innovation space. So, the federal government and Malcolm Turnbull announced their ideas agenda last year. And it came into force on the 1st of January. Now, originally they announced $1.1 billion. The figure these days is about $3 billion in terms of the amount of money that's available under the innovation agenda. And a lot of that money is available for startups. So if you do want to go and try your hand, and that's your personality type, to start your own company and be an entrepreneur, the Australian government is offering more incentives and more support than they ever have before. Yeah, it's a great time to be pushing into that sort of space as we try and transition from being a resources-based economy to being a knowledge-based economy. Okay, you're dropping into it at just the right point. All right. So that's a little bit out there, I suppose. I want to just bring it back and talk a little bit about Tech One and what we do and how we innovate, because Tech One is almost 30 years old now as an organisation. So in terms of IT companies, we are ancient. So how do we innovate? How do we stay relevant given everything that's gone on? As I said at the beginning, we started out with green screen products and people liked them. And we went through client server. We had, at one point, the largest statically bound Visual Basic program in the world. It's a bit of an invidious distinction, but we had it briefly, and then we broke it up and discovered dynamic linking, and the world was never the same again. We went through into .NET, VB.NET, and now we're into the C# space, and we're developing for mobile devices and things like that, which is great. But how have we done that? One of the key things that we've done, and we're basically unique in the IT industry in this space, is we invest 20% of our operating revenue year on year into R&D. That's about twice the industry average. And this year, that's $45 million. Okay? $45 million for R&D. That's a lot of money. So if you think about a startup, and you think, okay, startup gets round 2 funding of $750,000 perhaps. And that's cause for celebration. Lets the startup continue on, lets you do more work, lets you employ a few more people, get things off the ground. We received seed funding of $45 million this year. And next year we'll receive funding of about $48 million. And the year after that it'll probably be about $55 million. Every year we get that funding. What we do with that is also very interesting, because a lot of organisations that don't make that sort of investment have to choose whether they want to innovate or whether they want to maintain what they've got. And in most cases, when you have to make that choice, most people will go with maintaining what they've got, because that's protecting their existing customer base. We don't have to make that choice. We do both. And we do both all the time. Yeah, so we maintain our existing customer base, which is about 1,100 customers worldwide. And we've got a team which is dedicated to doing that. But then we also have a team which is dedicated to new research, new R&D. Yeah, and this is developing products, so defined product roadmaps, as the team told you yesterday, but it is also blue sky, pure research stuff. And bringing this back to our intern program, the people we use for a lot of that blue sky research are our interns. Because our interns are young, they've got great ideas, they're enormously creative, they're very, very smart, and we can't put them on any critical path projects because we don't know that next week they might have to take a week off because of exams. They're not part of any of those critical path sprints that the guys were talking about yesterday. So to give you an example of what we're working on at the moment, and we've got our user conference coming up here in Brisbane in about 3 weeks' time. So everything I'm talking about here will actually be on display at that conference. We've been doing research into drones and how drones can assist our customers with taking inspections of assets in hard-to-reach or dangerous areas. So a lot of our customers, and our customers are things like Brisbane City Council, QUT, the Queensland Government, lots of different universities, water utilities, electricity utilities, big organisations like that. Most of them have got lots of assets they need to maintain. And that might be roads, it might be power poles, lighting infrastructure. And I think if you've been following the news, you've seen down in Adelaide or South Australia as a whole this last week, they've had major blackouts, mostly because a bunch of power poles fell over. Yeah, the storms were so severe that the transmission system fell over. Now, it's obviously quite easy to spot. Our organisations have to maintain those sort of assets. So what they tend to do when they're maintaining those is they'll have 2 people, they'll have a truck, they'll have a ladder, and they'll go out and they'll physically inspect these things out in the middle of nowhere. So they'll take the truck off the ladder, they'll put it up against the pole, one person will hold the pole down the bottom, the ladder down the bottom, next one will climb up to the top, they'll have a look at it and go, yeah, that one's all right. They'll come back down, tick it off the list, put the ladder back on the top of the truck, get in, drive probably 100 metres to the next pole, and do it all over again. It's inefficient, it's expensive, and it's dangerous. One of our customers is an electricity transmission company, so they maintain the power poles in New Zealand. They have 1 death a year for their staff. On average, 1 person a year dies doing that maintenance activity. Okay, now, I don't really want to be that person. I don't think anyone else in this room wants to be. So what we're looking at is drone technology that will allow us to have 1 person with a small car and a drone taking camera footage of these high poles and assets and then sending that back to head office so a qualified engineer can look at it and go, yep, that one's okay, tick. Okay, we've halved the number of people we need. The person who's running the drone is not a qualified engineer, so we've also reduced our staff costs. We've taken the occupational health and safety thing completely off the table because no one's getting on a ladder and no one's going up near high voltage power lines. Yeah? Everyone's winning. So I took this and I was actually speaking with some people at a barbecue. And it was about a month ago, I suppose, and we were just right in the middle of this. It was very enthusiastic. So we're saying, oh, this is what we're doing, and this is what we're doing, and it's going to be great. The thing that fascinated me was the people at the barbecue, who had absolutely nothing to do with Technology One, immediately started picking up this idea and running with it. And they said, oh, so this means you've taken a video. The next time you go out, you can review the video that you took previously and see what's changed. So you've now got a longitudinal record of the maintenance of that particular asset, something that none of our customers have ever had before. Yeah, so this is just one example. A couple of others. We're developing software for the Apple Watch, and again, that's an intern project. We're developing software for the Microsoft HoloLens. Has anyone tried out the HoloLens yet? Mucked around with it? No? That's because it's not available in Australia yet. We've got two, courtesy of Microsoft, at the office here in Toowong, and one of our interns is actually doing a project to create an augmented reality interface for our software. Again, around asset inspections, imagine if you could look around this room through an augmented reality space and see immediately if anything was out of place. Yeah, if I could look at this desk and say, hang on a minute, there are 2 overhead projection units there should only be 1. Where did the second one come from? Imagine if I could just do that at a glance, rather than having to look at a big inventory and tick everything off and go, what have I got left at the end? Yeah, we're doing that sort of work as well. So these are things our customers haven't implemented. They're expensive. They haven't thought about it yet. They need someone to help them with the tech. Yeah, we are showing all of those things at our conference in about 3 weeks' time. Yeah, so that's the sort of innovation process that we use at Tech One, the sort of things that we do to stay fresh and relevant and to ensure that we stay on top of the game. The last little bit, and this is not so much to do with innovation, but to do with giving something back to the world. We're a successful company. We are ASX 200 listed. Our market cap is approaching $2 billion. We've got over 1,000 staff around the world. It's great, right? We're a good, successful company. So it's time to actually put our money where our mouth is and give something tangible back. So this year we joined the Pledge 1% movement. The guys from Atlassian were actually founders of this movement, so it is really centered in the tech world. The concept is you pledge 1% of your profits, 1% of your product, and 1% of your time to charitable causes. Now, in our case, our product is software, so we donate our software to not-for-profit organisations that otherwise wouldn't be able to afford it, so that they can run their business using our financial management or HR software, that sort of thing. The 1% is going to be roughly $3 million this year. So we're giving $3 million to various charities. The charities we focus on are those that are educating youth, and specifically educating youth around IT. So the whole STEM education piece is a huge thing for us. We sponsor Tech Girls Are Superheroes. We are offering a lot of sponsorship for other organisations around Australia. We sponsor a school in Tanzania called the School of St Jude, which is a private school that was created by an Australian, and we sponsor all of their IT. We sponsor their computer lab. Now, everything there is nailed down because computers are actually, literally nailed down, because computers are quite a valuable commodity in Tanzania. So that's about $60,000 a year that we commit to something like that. Yeah, it's very important to us that we're able to do this. And then the 1% of time is allowing our staff to actually participate in charitable events as part of their normal workday. So yesterday the guys were talking about going to the RSPCA. That's just one example. We've had our Queensland sales team, instead of having a team building day and going off to a high ropes course or playing barefoot bowls, they went to a homeless shelter and cooked meals for 4 hours for homeless people. Yeah, so that's the sort of process that our organisation is now going through. So this is called Technology One Foundation. We run all of these under the auspices of the foundation. Yeah, so we're in that sort of space of tangibly giving back to the world and to charitable causes because we've been successful ourselves. So, enough about all that deep stuff. Bring it all back. Do what you love. Be good at it. Make money from it. Do something the world needs. If you can find those 4 things, if you can find your Ikigai, then there's a pretty good chance you're going to have a happy and fulfilling life. And I really hope you do. Thanks very much. All right, I think we have a few minutes. Does anybody have any questions at all? Yes? Is our conference open? It's not. However, talk to me. There may be something that we're doing I'm not aware of. We talked about having a student day. And yeah, let's chat and I'll see if that's actually happening or not. Okay? Officially, no. Unofficially, maybe. Yes? What does a tech evangelist do? It's a really great question. I created this role at TechOne. It didn't exist before I had it. And I'd been through a whole bunch of other roles. So I was kind of the logical choice within the organization. A lot of tech evangelists, the original tech evangelists were people like Steve Jobs and Guy Kawasaki. Yeah? But now it's a term which is used quite widely through the industry. An evangelist is basically somebody who promotes their organization or a part of their organization with the goal of making other people into evangelists for that organization. Yeah? So if you come away from this going, oh, look, TechOne sounds like a great place, they're doing this and this and this that's really interesting, then I've succeeded. Yeah? Some wag a little while ago called it truth-based marketing. So while technically I'm part of an R&D marketing team, that's my sort of organizational unit, we don't do traditional marketing. We're not sort of the ones who are doing design and you know, slogans and things like that. But what I do is I take the work of our R&D team, and we've got over 300 developers, 12 different products, yeah, a cloud platform team, a whole lot of other stuff, and I then present that vision of what we're doing to groups like this, to our customers. I speak at a lot of conferences, yeah, that sort of thing. So it really is very much a communication role, yeah, but you have to know the stuff, and that's the whole truth-based marketing piece. In order to be a good evangelist, you actually have to be credible technically as well. Otherwise, you're just a talking head. All right, any other questions? Yes? How many employees do we have? We have just under 1,100. I think it's about 1,060 right now. We've got offices in every Australian capital, Auckland and Wellington, Papua New Guinea. We have a Malaysian office in Kuala Lumpur, and we have two UK offices, one in England and one in Scotland. Yeah? So we are a global company. We've been a global company almost since the beginning. Some of our very first customers were in New Zealand. Yeah? But the head office for the organisation is in Brisbane, always has been. We've got over 500 staff here in the HQ building down in Fortitude Valley. Right, any other questions? No? All right, well, I'm acutely aware I'm standing between you and lunch. So thank you very much. Hope you have a great time, and we'll see you soon.